Opinions expressed on this radio program do not necessarily reflect the views of this radio station.
My friends and I always tune into the Todd L. Levitt Law Show. Todd is entertaining, informative, and always delivers the goods.
Todd might not tell you what you want to hear, but he's going to tell you what you need to hear. And all you got to do is listen.
Hold on, Todd. Don't let go. It's time for the Todd L. Levitt Law Show.
Welcome to the Todd L. Levitt Law Show. Good morning, good evening, and good night. I'm yours truly, attorney Todd L. Levitt, broadcasting and podcasting in the Black Diamond Group mothership in the middle of the mitten in a beautiful green nutrient field, back from the toothache with my good friend Craig Russell, the hustle, the muscle. He's your friend, he's mine, he's Little John's best friend. How you doing, Craig?
I'm a bountiful nug. That's what I am. How are you?
I am doing frickin' fantastic after, days and hours and weeks of fighting and dealing with that dreadful tooth issue. But you're better now or still bad? I'm much better now. Let me just say that. So,
okay, good. Glad to hear
big
that.
shout out, by the way, to Dr. Craig Downey, Mount Pleasant, Michigan. One of the best dentists, surgeons anywhere in the state of Michigan. Craig Downey, great doctor, great dentist. So if you or someone you know needs dental care, truly look up Dr. Downey right there on Main Street. And, of course, Dr. Louis Corey, one of my oldest, dearest friends, always takes such good care of me. But anyhow, you can tell from the voice and the sound and the energy compared to last week, I'm doing much better.
That's good. I'm now actually going to have to go see a dentist soon. I've got a toothache myself. Thanks a lot, Todd. You gave me a toothache. Good job.
I imposed it on you, Craig Russell, the muscle, the hustle. But yeah, you talk all day and night on the radio and in your sleep. So if you can't talk, we are all in trouble. But Craig, we opened the show today because there is a very special guest who will be joining us in the studio. And Dokken, is one of my top 5, truly, no joke, favorite all-time glam hair bands, big bands, just destroyers from the 80s. George Lynch, one of the greatest guitarists ever. Loved George Lynch and his style. We had to open up with Dokken again today.
Don Dokken, and you just got lucky. Yes, Don Dokken. We had, from the past week's shows, we kind of had to rock it up just a bit because we were a little soft the past few weeks. But
well, we're like a concert. We start off with a certain type of music, a certain type of energy, and then we build up to this crescendo. And today on today's show, we have the Honorable Daniel Bain, who is in studio with us and who's going to be joining us here in just a moment. And we've been planning and talking about having Judge Bain on the show. And, And Judge Bain is a judge in the 53rd District Court in Livinston County, Michigan. And we're so honored to have Judge Bain in the studio in the mothership this morning, Craig.
And one of your oldest and dearest friends. You've known him for how long?
Probably 30, 40 years at this point in time in my life. His father, Jack, when I first got out of law school, Detroit College of Law in 1992, other than the individuals with whom I went to law school with, Dan, his brother, John, who's an outstanding attorney, John Bain is just one of the best ever. But his father, Jack, was one of, if not the most prominent attorneys in the state of Michigan. And Jack always treated me like one of his sons. And not knowing anyone or the system or judges or how everything worked, Jack took me under his wing and introduced me to judges and prosecutors and other attorneys and really set me on my path towards a successful law career to this very day. And I have so much gratitude and love and appreciation for the entire Bain family. So, and it's just an honor to have, Judge Bain on the show today. It truly is.
Should we bring him out? He's sitting right here.
I mean, why you never want to keep a judge waiting, so let's bring Judge Bain on the show.
I try not to keep anybody waiting, Todd L. If I was keeping somebody waiting too long, my dad would be getting mad, looking down on me, getting mad for keeping people waiting in the courtroom.
Yeah, Jack was great. I compared Jack. He was a larger than life character, judge. I compare him to John Wayne of lawyers. He just was a big guy, big stature, well known, the best at what he did. Wherever he went, people knew who he was, and he walked into a room and he demanded attention. That's how I describe Jack.
I appreciate it. I've heard that a lot, over the years. Mrs. Bain sitting here shaking her head next to me. Remember meeting my dad years and years ago, walking to a gym, and thought she had that same impression of him. But myself and you were both very fortunate to have a guy like that as a mentor. My dad kind of knew everybody, had been around for a long time. Always treated everybody with respect. And, over the years, it's amazing how many guys I've had walk up to me while I was practicing, or, even now as a judge, walked up to me and said, man, your dad pulled me aside one day in a courtroom and just took me under his wing and knew I didn't know anybody, and just, started sharing his knowledge with me, and, introduced me to people, and just, brought me in back, got me to talk to the judge, and he just was really good to young lawyers. He recognized that. He had a guy that was his mentor, a guy named Jim Roberts, when he started the prosecutor's office back in the 60s. And Jim was an African-American guy back in the Oakland County prosecutor's office in 1965. So Jim had an extreme sense of justice, and he taught my dad that. My dad always remembered that, passed that on to us, and he just never looked back.
And now you're passing that on.
Yeah,
correct.
That's exactly what we're trying to do. Pass that on. Funny, Craig. I got my dad's prayer card from his funeral. He's passed away a couple years ago, but I got his prayer card from his funeral sitting on my bench with WWJD. That's not what would Jesus do. That's what would Jack do. and that keeps me real well rounded. Anybody that knew my dad, knows he always tried to do the right thing. But Pops was always just a straight shooter. Todd is, as being an attorney. I mean, the worst thing you can do is damage your reputation in front of a judge. Once you shoot that credibility, I mean, it's gone forever. So it seems a lot of young attorneys, as you know, we've seen them over the years, they don't realize that. Come in and try to pull one over on the judge too much.
Yeah, you can't do that. That's why I didn't want to, keep the judge waiting here on the show, Judge.
That's right.
But so you sit on the bench in the 53rd District Court, which also is, the 44th Circuit Court, Livinston County. And tell us a little bit about the district court in which you sit and the county in which it's located. This show is heard all over the world on podcast, and it is on 98.5 WUPS on Sunday mornings from 8 to 9 a.m. all over central, northern, upper Michigan. So for those listeners who aren't familiar with your court, can you tell us a little bit about the court?
Yeah, I sure can. So, we're located in Livingston County, so we're just, west of Detroit, or west of Oakland County, and kind of tucked in between Oakland and then up north of Wayne, and then, by Washington and south of Genesee there. So our county's got about 190,000 people in it. I was appointed back in 2000 and late 2019. Ran for re-election in 2020. Won an unopposed landslide election, so that was nice to be re-elected by the folks. But I was very fortunate; nobody ran against me, so that was good. So yeah,
because they were smart. They knew not to do that. Not to do that.
We set the tone at that investiture, right, Big Todd?
Yeah, that investiture had literally, truly about 300 to 500 people there. It was. I've been to investitures before, which is where judges. There's other judges present. I think there was like a dozen judges present who were there to honor your presentation on that evening. It was incredible.
Yeah,
I was so happy to be part of it. I still have a sign in my office that says Judge Bain on it, and I Zoom each and every day with different courts and different judges, and they always ask me about that sign. They'll say, "Is that Judge Bain from Livinston County?" If they know you, and if they don't, they ask about it. And okay, we've heard of Judge Bain, sure. But the great thing, Craig and folks, about Judge Bain is that he had been a defense attorney for a few decades prior to taking the bench. And I've said this year in and year out, I believe as an attorney, myself a defense attorney, that when you have a judge with that broad experience of representing individuals and their families and seeing the emotions and the pain they go through, that to me that's a great individual who makes a great judge for the compassion that they bring to the bench. And you are definitely that guy, Judge Bain.
Well, I appreciate that, Todd. Yeah, like you said, practiced for 25 years before I took the bench. Learned from the best. My dad, my brother John, just had two great mentors, and bounced around like a pinball, like I say, from court to court, just doing, guerrilla warfare and trench warfare, like me and you like to call it, just representing regular people and small businesses and circuit and district courts all over the state. Always try to kind of stick to my bailiwick. The Tri-County area was obviously in Oakland and Howell, or Oakland and Livingston and Wayne a lot. But yeah, real broad experience. I mean, represented people in all aspects of criminal law, from a drunk driving to murder cases, and I think from a small claims to frankly multi-million-dollar settlements. We had some pretty good luck over the years. So having that broad range of experience, I think, really prepared me well for the bench. I think that having that broad range, I think a lot of lawyers around town, that come in, really like to see somebody that has that practical aspect and has that practical experience, just having done so much, and just kind of able to grasp all the issues. I've seen it all. I've kind of done it all, and really nothing that I see surprises me. And you just try to have a good rapport with all the folks that come in. When I was getting the appointment and selling myself on that, I really tried to tout that broad experience that I had, and really tout that I thought everybody always deserved, while they're in court, to be treated with the utmost respect, and it really, really try to respect people's time. It's been strange with COVID, obviously. It's been a little challenging with Zoom and whatnot, but, really try to get people in court and get them out of court. Give them as much time as they need when they get up to the plate, so to speak. But I try to get them up to that plate as quick as I can. I try to walk out, scan that courtroom, see who I can get out quickly, and just, be respectful of people's time, because I don't want somebody paying a lawyer. All due respect to lawyers trying to make money, but I don't want small businessman paying a lawyer $250 an hour to sit there for 3 hours for something that takes 5 minutes once they actually get up to the bench or get up to the podium to speak. And how that world works. Yourself.
Oh yeah, I back in the day when I practiced in Oakland, Wayne, Macomb County, I recall in the 90s arriving in court at 8:30 because you and your client have to appear at 8:30. And back in those days, there were judges who didn't take the bench to 10:30, quarter to 11, and you would be sitting there thinking, okay, wait a minute, we were supposed to be here, and my client's missing work, or she has to get her kids to daycare, and I don't know if that even takes place anymore, Judge Bain, but, back in the day, and I won't mention the courts, it wasn't Livingston County, I surely won't mention the judges, but that was my experience, and I was incensed over that type of, judiciary at that time. It wasn't rampant, but there were a few judges here and there in various counties who just felt that they could take the bench whenever they felt they could take the bench, and that's not the case in your courtroom.
No,
hey, by the way, is the 53rd District Court back open for business, or Are you still Zooming?
No, so we just the orders came back down from the Supreme Court Administrator's office in the last few days, and we're in, I guess it's phase 4 now. So we're back open for business, almost back to original. So we're going to allow people in. We're kind of phasing in our individual courtrooms how we're doing it. A lot of people obviously like Zoom in some instances. I don't like it for the criminal cases. I really think people need to be there. And, we're going to start getting people back live July 1st. I've had people on a selective basis coming in live. We've been trying to set a lot of exams live and whatnot over the past few weeks. But for our court clerks, the notices will start going out live as of July 1st. And then, just a little bit about the court clerks. It's funny, Todd, and I know you know this. When you get to the bench, and when you're practicing, you never realize how much goes on behind the scenes at the court and how important. You always know how important the clerks in the courtroom are, but you never realize how important the clerks in the back, the back room, so to speak, are, and the clerks behind the counter. And for every judge, there's 10 people behind the scenes making the things happen. I guess I'm kind of the figurehead, but I just kind of work there. I work with everybody else. I'm just one of the cogs in that, in that set of gears that makes everything go, because our staff is just so important out there. Our clerks that work there, my lady that I actually work for, technically, Tammy Morris, is my judicial clerk and secretary. Trust me, I may be the judge, but she's the boss of that joint. And then, I
know how that is.
And I got my clerk, Zach, who's great. And then I'm really, really fortunate. My benchmate, Shauna Murphy, she's been a judge for about a year longer than me, and she's just so excellent and down to earth and just bright as a whip and just great to work with. And just, we just work really, really well together. I'm just pleased to have her. And then we have our chief judge in the 44th Circuit Court, because we share the building with the Circuit Court. And he's one of my mentors, too. I know Judge Mike Caddy, and he's down at the Circuit Court. And, I've known Mike for years. He helped me get to where I'm at today, and I can't thank him enough for, all he's done for me. But to have him in the same building with me and just to be able to walk down that hall and bounce things off Mike when, you're a new guy, you're trying to feel the ropes out and find out what's going on. And just to be able to walk down the hall and bounce things off of Mike's just been, so beneficial to me, and it's just, great working with him. So we're very fortunate.
That's the voice of the Honorable Dan Bain from Livinston County on the Todd L. Levitt Law Show. Todd, we have to take a break, but when we come back, more talking with Judge Bain and more talking. I know you've got some law stuff to get to, so we will do that when we come back.
Welcome back to the Todd L. Levitt Law Show, broadcasting and podcasting in the mothership, in the middle of the mitten, in a beautiful green nutrient field, coming back strong once again, Craig and Judge Bain with Dokken, one of my all-time, and I say this each and every week, but Dokken truly is one of my favorite, bands of all time, Craig.
We have a kid named Gavin who always brought that up to us, that Todd's got, when he did the top 5 bands or top 10 bands, he's got about 700 top 5 or top 10 bands that he likes to reference. But truly, Dokken is one of your top 5 or 50 bands of all time from the 80s with hair bands.
Yeah, I play Dokken on this show all the time. But hey, enough of music. Let's get back to Judge Bain from the 53rd District Court, located in Michigan, Livinston County. Judge Bain is one of my closest, all-time, oldest friends. We started off together, and I consider him family, and I'm so honored to have him on the show today. And, Judge Bain, again, thank you for taking the time to be in the studio in the mothership today doing the show. I wanted to ask you a little bit about your court in regards to Veterans Court, Drug Sobriety Court. Can you talk a little bit about those programs and what they are?
Yeah, sure, Todd. We got several specialty courts. So I actually had the honor today that the host of Veterans Court or preside over the Veterans Court. Actually, Judge Murphy presides over the Veterans Court generally in our court, but she was on vacation this week, and I was covering for her. And again, it's just because we work together great. We cover each other all the time. There's no drama in our courthouse between her and me. It's just great. But anyways, our Veterans Court, we have about 14 participants in that. Obviously, they're all veterans. Veterans Court's a very intensive treatment program whereby we have mentors that are also vets themselves. We work closely with the VA, counselors, AA counselors, obviously the mentors, a real intensive treatment court so that we can get vets the treatment they need to, keep them on the straight and narrow, get them out of that addictive behavior that so many vets fall into. We got PTSD and all that stuff running rampant. So, generally it's a person that's involved a second time drunk driving or a drug offense, and we get them in that vets court and we get them the intensive treatment they need. We generally meet on the vets court twice a month. The veterans or the vets are all very, very supportive of each other. It's kind of a team atmosphere. They're all pulling for each other. And it's just we've been achieving some really, really good outcomes, not only in our Veterans Court, but the Vets Court throughout the state, quite frankly, throughout the nation, are just having much lower recidivism rates on people that run through those treatment courts than in regular sentences and whatnot. So it's a really, really tailored program. And then I'm also fortunate enough to actually preside over the drug court, the misdemeanor drug court in the 53rd District Court. I worked that in close conjunction with Judge Hattie. Judge Hattie, prior to me taking the bench, was handling both the misdemeanor drug court as well as a felony drug court, and he had about 40 participants he was dealing with every single week, or every other week, I'm sorry. And because we'll bring every other week, we'll bring all the participants in, and we spent about 3 to 5 minutes with each person, talking to them, seeing where they're at, seeing what kind of problems they're having, seeing where we can help them out. Prior to actually meeting with the guys that are involved in the drug court, we have a whole team that meets for an hour before each of the drug courts to see where the guys are at, see where we can get them help, try to get them placement, try to get them jobs. It's just been a real, real good program. And again, the recidivism rates, drop exponentially when you get people involved in these courts. And Judge Hattie, when I got there, because I had some experience work with, our other buddy, Travis Reeds, Dave Law, Rob Bondi down to 52nd District Court, I've been involved in the Veteran Treatment Court down there and their sobriety courts, had a lot of experience. So Judge Hattie asked me if I'd be happy to come on board, or if I would be willing to come on board and handle the misdemeanor end of the drug court and free him up a little bit. He's a dynamo, man. The guy's got more energy.
Judge Hattie is Judge Hattie is one of my favorite humans. I've known Judge Hattie. I actually met him through you and Jack, your father, years ago. And when I saw him at your investiture, he looked at me, gave me a wink. I winked back and said, Judge, man, I just wanted to come up on stage, and aside from giving you a big old hug, I wanted to give Judge Hattie a big old hug. And Judge Murphy, I've actually appeared before her via Zoom, and she's so professional and does such a great job with all that. But hey, so Judge Bain, I wanted to ask you something. Having been a defense attorney for 25 years prior to taking a bench and representing individuals who go before judges, as you once went before judges yourself, now you are a judge. I mean, there's nothing that gets by you now as a judge. I mean, you obviously, if there's a young attorney or any attorney that comes before your honor in the courtroom, what advice would you have for attorneys out there, any attorney, as far as how to represent a defendant? Would you prefer? And I guess my question is, I always tell my clients, look, I'm paid to speak. This is my job. I'm here to advocate and to fight for you, fight for your constitutional rights. But when it comes down to it, the judge would like to hear from you. They know I'm here advocating for you and on your behalf, but what do you have to say? So I always make it a point to have my clients speak to the judge at sentencing, to advocate and let the judge hear from their heart, what they're going through and how they feel about what they did. What's your opinion on that?
I'm like you, Todd. I really like to hear from the people if I can, because it just gives me a better, it's like you said, I've been doing it for 25 years. We've heard every story. Rarely do we hear a story that we hadn't heard as a defense attorney. And you, like me, you used to have clients tell you, go tell the judge this or go tell the judge that. And me and you'd be looking like, I'm not telling the judge that.
Exactly.
'Cause it's just it's not credible. I mean, the best thing, again, back to credibility. You got to have credibility with that judge. But I do, a lot of times attorneys will tell their clients not to speak at a sentencing, and I understand that. I respect that. A lot of times people definitely dig themselves a deeper hole. But I like to hear from the people if I can. Again, I don't hold it against them if I don't, because, they absolutely have the right to remain silent. And again, some people just aren't well spoken in that situation. But you can get a pretty good feel of people's sincerity level and, how they're feeling when they speak a few words at sentencing. Even if they're not a well-spoken person, you can just tell in their voice.
Yeah, as an attorney, and one of the things that we didn't even need someone to tell us this, but you learn, early on, be prepared, have your clients prepared, and make sure your clients show up dressed appropriate to show respect not only for themselves, first and foremost, folks, but for the judge and the court system. I mean, the courts belong to the people. They don't belong to the lawyers, the judges, or the clerks. I mean, it's the people's court.
Nope, I couldn't agree with you more on that. You know what I say? I mean, that's the people's courtroom.
Right, but you still want to show up and have some respect for yourself and the process and the system, Judge Bain. And if you're just joining us and tuning in and you're on your way to do whatever you are doing, listening to the show, we're joined by the Honorable Daniel Bain of the 53rd District Court located in Livinston County, Michigan, which, folks, because this is heard all over the world, if you're looking at the Mitten State and you look where Detroit is, or how about Lansing, East Lansing, where MSU is, albeit I'm a Michigan fan, even though I went to Central, Judge Bain. But Livingston County is to the, if you're looking at as to the east, what about half an hour of East Lansing in the lower part of southeastern Michigan, or more to the north? How would you describe it?
That's good geography for a dude that went to Central.
No kidding.
Yeah, I thought that's pretty good.
It was a blur.
I'm impressed by that.
It was a blur, guys. It was a blur.
But, hey, Todd, back to the dress code a little bit, because, again, I don't get bent out of shape too much about that. With Zoom, you got to roll through everything. Obviously, when people are in person, like to see them, dressed nice.
But what about when Zoom's not taking place?
No, I'd like to know when it's not taking place. I like to see them come in and be respectful. So for some people, respectful is a clean T-shirt because that's all they got.
Exactly.
And I would never, ever put down a person that was working. The guy walks in with his greasy, dirty mechanic shirt because he was wrenching all day at the Ford dealer. I got nothing but respect for that. I'm not going to say a word. He couldn't take the morning off, couldn't get back to his house to change or whatever, working all day. He got no bigger advocate than me, or bigger fan, and do what I can for him when he's respectful like that. That's not disrespect. But I got a big problem with the guy that's. I know you're pretty big marijuana advocates, but I got a problem with the guy that burns one after he rolls out of bed, puts on his friend with weeds, friend indeed T-shirt, and walks into court looking like that.
Right,
and he's not, and he's not working. That bothers me, and that bothers all courts. So. Have respect for the court, and you as an attorney know that each attorney, you got to know how to, handle each judge. I mean, half of being an attorney is dealing with personalities. I think it's 3/4 of it. And as you know, when we were practicing law, I got used to dealing with personalities, and maybe you go out to Oakland Circuit and you'd be dealing with, you have to adjust to 16 different personalities maybe out there.
Yeah,
I forget how many judges. And there's some judges you could go in front of over the years, that one judge may have 3 or 4 different personalities on any given morning. So you know how that rolls too. But I'm not going to mention. I won't mention any names, big time.
But that's not you. That's not you. No consistency.
Each judge does have their own individual personality. That's for sure. Now here's a question for you, Judge Bain, and the question is, I've often sat in courtrooms and my case would be called next, and the case prior to my case. The individual and or the lawyer, the judge isn't happy with the defendant who the lawyer's representing, and or the judge is not happy with the lawyer. And look, judges are human, and you could see they're not happy emotionally and physically, and you could see it on his or her face. And you always hear people saying, "Oh, great, I don't want to be next because this is not going to be good for my client." Is that a myth, or is there any truth to that? And I always wondered that myself, like, oh, great, I got to be next after what that person just did, and that judge is not happy, and here I come. What's the truth
Todd,
behind that?
I think that goes back to, knowing your judge. Again, was a good attorney, your different judges, know what their, idiosyncrasies are, and know their personalities. Like Craig was saying, he did nicely, so, judge, that's not you with 5 different personalities. And what I really tried to bring to the table for the attorneys, like, I think I'm an attorney's judge, like, players coach type of deal, just because I did it for so long. So what I try to have for the guys that practice, guys and ladies that practice in front of me, is predictability. They know when they're coming, they know who they're going to get. Yeah, the guy ahead of you might have aggravated me, but your person is going to be a whole new case. I'm not taking out the last guy on you.
Okay.
I mean, you just can't, because and then we've all seen that before, and I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do that to the attorney, and I'm not going to do that to some poor little kid who's standing in front of me that, has never been in front of a judge before, and his mom and dad are sitting in the back of the courtroom scared to death that bad's going to happen because, the guy before him was a 15-timer that I had to give it a little adjustment to. And I'm not above giving a guy a little adjustment if he's got it coming, and that's just how we play it.
The great thing about you, Judge Bain, is, and of course, why am I calling you Judge Bain? I mean, you're one of my best friends because I'm an attorney, you're a judge. I respect the position. I respect the court, the judiciary. I respect our profession. And when you and I are in court, I have not yet appeared before you, but if I'm appearing before you, I'm calling you judge. If I'm on the radio, I'm calling you judge. If we're in a professional setting, I'm calling you judge. I'm not calling you Big Daddy Danny Bain that I've called you most of my life because you're about 6'4", 280, a tall, handsome, outdoor enthusiast. You hunt, you fish, you've traveled all over the world hunting. But, in any other setting, I have respect for what you and I do. And albeit we're best friends, but when we go to work, and even in this setting, you're a judge to me, and I respect that, and I'm so proud of you. And, I'm honored that you're on the show. You're the first judge we have ever had on the Todd L. Levitt Law Show, and truly honored, Judge Bain.
Well, no, Todd, I appreciate the invitation. I did the show back years ago. Actually, my pops came up and we did it that night.
I remember that.
We had a blast doing it. But as you know, I guess on the bench, I'm the judge from 9 to 5, and at 5:01, I'm Danny, as you know. And I like doing a lot of good stuff in the community, and people recognize me as a judge. But I just assume be Danny. But I appreciate that courtesy. You know it.
Now I'm going to ask you a question. On 98.5 UPS, we run the Mike Avery Outdoor Show. Have you ever met Mike Avery before?
I have not, but I've listened to Mike's show.
He is probably about 4 inches taller than you, and maybe got you by about 50 pounds. He's a huge guy.
Well, Todd was nice. He gave me 2 inches. He gave me 2 inches and about 30 pounds.
Well, I'm gonna then Avery's got 6 inches and about 80 pounds on you because he's a big guy. I mean, you meet him, you hear him on the radio. He sounds like a nice, pleasant guy. You meet him, and you're looking up to him. I mean, he is just a big guy.
It's funny, Craig. I mean, I don't small too often, I guess, but we have a new prosecutor that's working in our courtroom. His name's Darius Sawtell, and actually we have a whole new prosecutor's office here. I have the pleasure of having Darius appear in front of me. He's in our courtroom doing all the misdemeanors, doing a lot of felony work now too. He's a young guy, just doing great. But he played football at Tennessee. Darius is about 6'6", and I don't know. He's a big dude. I mean, his hands just engulf mine, and he sounds like Mike. But Darius has been practicing a lot.
Well, volunteers.
And he's doing a great job. And actually, Darius just started coaching football over at Howell, so he's going to be a great asset. And it'll be fun to see how that team does.
Judge Bain, you're at least 6'4", 6'6" in my eyes. Okay,
yeah, I'm about 6'2", Todd, but I'll take
6'2".
We have got to take a break on the Todd L. Levitt Law Show. More with the Honorable Dan Bain when we come back.
Over and
Welcome back to the Todd L. Levitt Law Show. Joined in studio and coming back strong with Dockin, but joined in studio with the Honorable Daniel Bain in studio here in the mothership, and so honored to have Judge Bain from the 53rd District Court in studio talking about what it's like to be a judge and during the pandemic, and a little bit about what makes up the 53rd District Court, including the 44th Circuit Court, the prosecutor's office. Judge Bain and I have been close friends for decades. I mean, just going back before college, and so honored to have him in the studio, Craig.
Yes, very much so. And in my phone, he's Big Daddy Denny Bain. I understand he is a judge and everything, and I have the utmost respect for him, but that's how I know him as. I've known him way before him being a judge when you would talk about him, Todd, and we're really pleased to have you on the show.
It's a pleasure to be with you guys.
It actually brings a little credibility to the show now. Normally it's just Todd and I talking, and that ain't nothing. But
we thought little John brought credibility to the show, and
like
Biker
this.
Bob absolutely brought. We love Biker Bob. He does bring a ton of credibility to the show. But having
I'll bring Big John in one day.
There you go.
Johnny Bain.
Big John Bain.
Love John Bain. John Bain's one of my all-time favorite attorney mentors. So John Bain, Bain does. He's one of my favorite attorneys. He always does such a great job there, Judge Bain. But hey, Judge, let me ask you a question. A good friend, a mutual friend, attorney Mike Camorn, over this past year, took a case up to the Court of Appeals, People v. Toohey. And we've talked about that case on the show in regards to possessing a medical marijuana card while on some type of probation or under some type of programming within the court system. So as a district court judge in the 53rd, Livinston County, Michigan, how do you approach People v. Toohey with individuals who are on probation or about to be placed on probation and or drug and sobriety court?
So what we've been doing, since that decision came down, essentially, as you know, Todd says that while on probation, or parole is a practical matter, if you have a medical marijuana card, that you can use marijuana while on probation, even if it was for a drug offense or a drinking and driving offense. So obviously it was problematic for some of the courts where, you had driving offenses and whatnot, drug offenses. So how we've been approaching it, what we've been telling people when we're sentencing them and or when they're originally placed on bond with their various conditions they might have, how we've been wording is no recreational use of marijuana, no use of marijuana in violation of the Michigan Medical Marijuana Act, and that's it. That's what we say. And sometimes we'll have some people asking questions, or their lawyers will start to ask, "Oh, my guy's got a card," and I just cut them off. I say, you know what? Your lawyer's going to explain that one to you. If you got a card, he'll explain it to you, and we're just kind of leave it at that. So,
what if a lawyer comes before you and says, Judge Bain, my client was a card holder. It expired. His or her card expired. Again, I get what you're saying. I mean, the conversation is not with you on the bench. If what you're implying or saying at this point, if I'm hearing it correctly, is that, look, I'm an attorney. I understand People v. Toohey. I understand what the Medical Marijuana Act and the conflict in the laws and what the decision is. If I tell my client if they were once a card holder and they go obtain a card, then they're protected under People v. Toohey. Or if they're already a card holder, we will have that conversation as well.
Yeah, you kind of hit it right in the head. And then if the card's expired, though, I don't buy that. If the card's expired, you're not using. You got to
right. But what if they go
and
renew it? What if they renew it?
If they renew it, well, that's fine. Because
that's what I'm referring to.
Yeah, at this point, the law states what it says. I don't like when somebody, gets a conviction and runs out and grabs a card. But at this point, the law says what it says. From the Supreme or from the Court of Appeals in this case so far. But it is different, Todd, as you know. So running the drug court and with the veterans court, all the judges that preside over those courts throughout the state, been put in a predicament on that, because when you're in a treatment court, they don't want you using any substances. Our probation officers, the treatment professionals, any substances, basically taboo, because it just, even marijuana, though it's got a lot of positive things, it can, drag people down to that addiction. And we can, people can debate on that. Been doing it for 100 years at this point. But in general, most of the professionals say that it can't be on anything. But in any event, because the majority of the drug courts and veterans treatment courts, we are all getting federal grants for those in order to operate those programs. Those programs are expensive to operate. We put a lot of time and effort into those programs because, again, we're hiring extra therapists, extra probation officers. really giving people the one-on-one attention they need to try to get to break that addictive cycle. Because as you know, the people that are in those programs, they're not first timers. They've been through the system many, many times.
Yeah, second or third, sometimes fourth time offenders.
Yeah, second, third, 14th. So we all know the game. But anyways, because those programs, many of those programs receive grants with federal funding due to the nature that marijuana is still, federally prohibited. If you receive any federal funds and people are using marijuana in your program, you won't get those federal funds. So our position in our drug courts and our specialty courts in our county is that you cannot use marijuana while in the treatment court or specialty court, because that's a voluntary program.
And that would change if it became legal federally. That would probably change that.
Yeah, it probably would. It'll depend on how the feds are funding these various programs.
Right.
I mean, and our grant, I mean, we have a person that does nothing but write grants. Again, we put a lot of time and effort into creating these courts and staffing them right and doing it. In fact, the person who writes our grants, Sarah Applegate, we would have no program without Sarah. She just does an outstanding job.
Yeah, Sarah's great. I actually transferred an individual from what county was it? Roscommon, great court up there. Roscommon, big shout out to Roscommon County down to Livinston County, and Miss Applegate was honestly fantastic to work with, very professional, answered my questions, returned emails on time. She does a great job. I actually have firsthand experience with Miss Applegate. And my client was very successful thanks to her leadership.
Yeah, I think Sarah
what she does.
Yeah, I think Sarah was originally brought in by Judge Reeder when he was still on the circuit court bench, because he was a real big advocate of the specialty courts, and he brought Sarah in to create those. I believe that's the history. I've only been there a short time, but Sarah does a great job. But yeah, anyways, long story short, if you're in a specialty court, they're federally funded. You cannot use while you're in a program like that. Those programs are voluntary. And, as you know, Todd, in the specialty courts, one of the carrots that people get is that you get to have your driver's license, basically like a, DLAAD license, but you get to have a license with an interlock as a result of being involved in the specialty court. So if you want a license, you can't be smoking when you're in that program.
Speaking of driver's license and the Secretary of State, Judge Bain, I think you and I had a discussion in between breaks here in regards to you yourself, because we used to do these together, used to do a lot of work with the state of Michigan Department of State, Secretary of State, and reinstating individuals' driver's license. And with all the criminal justice reform that has taken place in recent months, at least in the state of Michigan, and the People v. Toohey and the way the laws have changed in Michigan in regards to recreational cannabis, in my opinion, the Department of State, the Secretary of State, in reviewing individuals who are seeking to obtain restricted and then full driving privileges, more than half the hearing officers, and let's say there's 10 of them now who are attorneys that sit as administrative hearing judges, they do not look favorably upon individuals who are medical marijuana card holders. It's 50-50 right now. And so all this reform and everything that has changed has not reached the Secretary of State's office. And it's very, concerning and discerning, if that's even a word. And I'm not happy about it. I'm just going to state that for the record. I'm not happy about it. So I just, I'm just not happy about it. So
right, and
that's all I have to say about that.
Yeah, and I was curious because I'm just out of that end of the game, so to speak, because I used to, like you, I used to do a ton of driver's license appeals and knew that, and I was curious as to how the hearing officers were handling it. But I guess you just basically told me we obviously
it's 50-50.
Yeah, so there's no set rules, and I tell people. I was telling the guys this today, actually, all the guys in the vet court, and it's all guys in ours, but I was telling the guys in the vet court, and I always tell the people this especially in my drug court, that I'm trying to get them prepared to get that license back, and though they have a license through us. I run through all the factors and all the things that I used to tell people, about getting their license back. I'm telling the specialty court, hey, you're going to have to, have your 5 letters from friends or family members about how you've been clean and sober for a year. They're, likely to remain sober, and your evaluation from our good Dr. Herb or our buddy Sam, just let them know they got to have their AA and know their AA down pat, know their AA steps like their Social Security number frontwards and backwards. And I'm always telling people, as soon as they get the interlock on, again, at our drug courts, I'm advising them, just like you advise your people. All right, hey, man, you got your interlock on there now, but if you have a dirty blow, make sure you don't miss your 15-minute retest. And even if you had a dirty blow and got on your retest, you go find someplace to take a PBT within the hour, and you go find someplace to take a ETG within 24 hours, and preferably as soon as you can, so that in the event you pop up with the hearing officer, you know how it is if you have an ETG and it's clean, they usually will help you out on that. So I basically, they'll wear a belt and suspenders too. And it's amazing how many people in our programs, prior to me telling them that, they're like, whoa, Judge, we never heard that one. So, I tell them that every couple of weeks now, just so that they're, properly prepared, because we're trying to, help them get that license back eventually and gearing them up, for that process. But yeah, I was really, and I tell them right now in the specialty court, I'm like, hey, you may be playing the game with a probation officer, or if you were in a specialty court and smoking, but I don't think the DLAD is going to be going for that.
See, then
Secretary of State does not go for that because the 12-panel drug screening is retired. And I know we have to go to break, but I would just say Judge Bain, who, by the way, is joining us from the 53rd District Court, Livinston County, the fact that you have so much experience in representing individuals prior to becoming a judge before the state of Michigan, the advice and the information you just provided to the listeners, I don't need to tell you this, Judge, because that's what you used to do. What I do is point on ETG, absolutely, PBT within 24 hours. The state of Michigan and their rules and their orders and directions and directives, they tell petitioners and individuals on these ignition interlock licenses to do exactly what you just advised the audience to do. And again, that just goes to show what overwhelming experience you have as an attorney and now a judge. And, those who come before you are very lucky to have you as a judge. So I know we have to go to break, right, Craig?
That's right. And I was going to say basically the same thing. Like you said before, kind of like a player's coach in a sport. You've been there, you know it, so you can help them out. That's way more valuable than somebody who's never been there and doesn't understand that.
And Judge Bain looks great doing it. He's 6'4", 280. He could be in any action movie. He's one of my closest friends. I'm telling you, he's Judge Bain. I love him. He's great.
It's a good thing this is radio or on the podcast, because if people saw you, there might be problems. I'm just going to say.
Handsome. What do you want? Ask for an autograph. What kind of problem? What do you mean? What kind of problem?
He fills the shirt out well. I'm saying his lovely wife is here. She might have to fend off some people because he fills the shirt out well.
You know what? The Bains got good DNA. I know Johnny real well. His brother Jeff. They're a great family.
You knew my mom, all 98 pounds of her.
Yeah, your mom was great. All your daughters and everybody. It's just a great family.
We do need to take a break on the Todd L. Levitt Law Show. When we come back, we will wrap the show up right after this.
Welcome back to the Todd L. Levitt Law Show. And Craig, Judge Bain, I am honored to announce that my cousin, A.Z. Anthony, and his lovely wife, Rosanna, gave birth to their second son, Jack Joseph.
Hey, good job, A.Z. Way to go.
Yeah, and now Anthony has a younger brother, and I am honored. I have been asked to be the godfather of baby Jack, and so I could not be more honored to, this is my family, and I love my family, and congratulations to the family, and I'm just honored to be, Jack's godfather. And Jack's doing great, by the way. So
when you have those sunglasses on and your hair slicked back, you play the godfather part pretty well. So I think it's going to work out.
Jack's great, Anthony and AZ and the whole family, Roseanne, everybody.
Todd, Big Todd, the Godfather is my favorite movie of all time. So
is that right? Okay.
And absolutely all things in life lead back to the Godfather. You can give some great advice from that movie.
Great movie. Yeah, I love the Godfather. Absolutely.
Leave the gun. Leave the gun. Take the cannolis.
Leave the gun. We're talking with, we have been talking with and joined by the Honorable Judge Dan Bain out of the 53rd District Court, Livingston County. Judge Bain, and I think you mentioned this early on, that the court is back open. Are defendants and their attorneys allowed back in a courtroom, or is that still a limited basis as we're in phase 4?
So it's limited. It's limited basis for us, and each judge is kind of running their courtrooms individually how they want. In our court, in the people's courtroom, I'd like to say, because it's not my courtroom, I just have the privilege to occupy that place for a few years, as long as the people let me. But then that courtroom, we're courtroom number 3, I believe. We're having people come in live. So, and I kind of do it on a case-by-case basis right now. I mean, some things I'm still Zooming a little bit. I'm going to probably continue to Zoom some of my civil stuff because that is more convenient for the attorneys. But as you know, Todd, and the criminal stuff, we got to have the people there because a lot of people are in front of us. I mean, I'm the judge, but I'm trying to help them out too. I mean, I'm trying to get people back on track. That's really my goal. And they got to be there live to achieve that goal. You can't get their attention when they're not there. But hey, just back to something we were talking about a second ago to get off track a little bit, but just on the driver's license thing, I know a lot of people listen to UPS are driving up north or driving back because we always listen to it when we're coming back and forth from Boyne City. And my second home in Boyne, or my second love in Boyne City. I mean, I love it up there. I've been going there since I was a kid. But anyways, we're traveling through. But I tell this to vets court today, and I told this to the drug court folks. And this is good for all the listeners that might be might have a unit in their car and they have the blow and go on the interlock. But have a place to test up north. If you're going up north for the weekend to Travers or Houghton or Charlevoix or wherever up to the UP, have a game plan so that if you have an interlock issue that weekend, you got a place where you can go get a PBT, figure out a police department, and you got a place up there you can go take a ETG, whether it be one of those concerted medical centers. I know you guys got some advertisers maybe you can shout out to about that, but tell people got to have a backup plan as to if that unit fails so that they don't get red flagged. Have that backup plan so they can get that ETGs up north someplace. I had a guy one time call me at 5 o'clock in the morning. He was camping and having a problem with his breath unit, or I think actually his color came up. And the court would accept a test from anywhere, but you had to have some place to test. And guy had not planned on that in advance and ends up getting himself in a jackpot. So just continue to try to give that advice to people so they can stay out of the jackpot, as we like to say.
Yeah, ETGs, PBTs, and don't wait. If you're getting a PBT, don't wait 5, 6, 7 hours. That needs to be taken immediately. I tell my clients.
You got to go to the Houghton Lake Police and pay them the $10 and get it right now within the hour, so that you.
By the way, the Houghton Lake Police do a great job. By the way, not to interrupt you there, but big shout out to Houghton Lake the Sheriff's Department of Roscommon County and all the police officers out there.
I had a guy actually when I was practicing still. Had a guy and I got his license back, and he was had a trucking repair company. They do the tires on the side of the road for semis and everything. Guy was doing everything right, really running a successful business. But anyways, he had a problem with his blowing unit. And turned out, of all things, it was the wine sauce, and we thought we'd heard everything, but it was a wine sauce in some fish that he had gotten at Olive Garden. He was going to eat carry out fish, and he was going to eat in the parking lot, and he got a call. So he ended up not eating the fish, drove his truck, got down, changed the tire on the side of the expressway, and ate this fish like an hour later. Went to start his car, and it wouldn't start. And he got red tagged and everything. The alarm was going off, and guy had taken my advice. He had his plan in effect. He went and got a PBT that day, got an ETG that day, and I remember went into the Secretary of State. We had the receipt from the Olive Garden. We had the fish menu showing there was white wine in it, and then the ETG showing it was clear. And the hearing officer said, "You know what? The ETG trumps everything, and here you go. And I'm not going to violate you. So be prepared. Be a Boy Scout on this stuff, man."
Great advice, Craig.
Great advice from the Honorable Dan Bain in the studio with us. We really appreciate you being on the show today.
I
any shout-outs, Judge Bain? You want to give any shout-outs? I know the wife is in studio.
The wife is right here next to me, yeah. So I'll give a shout-out to the lovely Lisa Bain here, and then a big shout-out to my big bro, John, who's floating around someplace. And we already gave a shout-out to Judge Hattie. And shout out to, Judge the Honorable Travis Reeds, Honorable David Law, Honorable Robert Bondi, who may be traveling himself up north right now.
I miss all those guys. I used to love practicing in front of Judge Reed, Bondi, and Law. Great judges, great men, great guys.
I was with those gentlemen last night with a couple other nefarious characters. So we had a good time. That's the one thing I do miss about practicing is I don't get to see those guys on a daily basis. As much as I don't miss driving around, I do miss, seeing all the different folks in different courts, because over 25 years I met a lot of people and just had good relationships, and it was nice to walk into places. So,
well, we hope to have you back on the show, Honorable Dan Bain from the 53rd District Court, Livinston County. So stoked to have you in the mothership today. And Craig, we definitely would like to invite Judge Bain back on the show.
Anytime. The mic is open anytime you want to come back.
I'll be back for sure. Look forward to it, gentlemen. Thank you very much.
Todd, the show's over. We got to go.
Come on, Craig. I'm just getting started here. What are you talking about?
I know, but
I had a great Zoom story with a local judge that I wanted to get to about my tooth. That'll have to wait until next week, though.
Next week, keep them wanting more next week.
It's a great story. I was fidgeting on Zoom, and the judge said to me, and I'll just leave it until next week. But it definitely was a good laugh there. But hey, we're not here for a long time, and we appreciate the Honorable Judge Bain being in the studio today. We're here for a good time. Take us out with a little talking. Craig Russell, and folks, thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next week.
Was making love to you such wasted time? Maybe I love you still, I'll get you off my mind. You were just using someone, and I was the one. She said you just got lucky. I believe your deadly lies. You just got lucky. I've been hypnotized. She said you just got lucky. I was taken by surprise. You just got lucky. You're a devil in disguise.
The Todd L. Levitt Law Show, brought to you by Chad Malley Well Drilling of Rosebush, Clark Modular Homes, your most experienced and trusted builder in Mount Pleasant, and attorney Todd L. Levitt, not just a litigator, he's an advocator.
Opinions expressed on this radio program do not necessarily reflect the views of this radio station.